right now I want to switch kind of topics and talk a little bit about art and business. So,
my favorite.
Yeah, you becoming an entrepreneur, and it's quite. I think it's quite a common opinion that people with artistic flair are quite bad at business. Like you seem to defy that statement. And so let's talk about the business side of things and what gave you the spark to become an entrepreneur. Were you not satisfied with the position of an employee? Or are the motives, financial, or is it something else, like a sense of control, or maybe something totally different?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of everything, of course. So the ultimate goal I think I have is that I would like to work on what I like to work on, right? Which I think is a fair statement. And so to achieve that, like you could do that, of course you could do that, but then you'll become the stereotypical starving artist, right? You could do it just for passion, and it's like, yes, you could of course do that. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you want to be realistic about it, you kind of need to have a plan of how you could achieve that. So yes, that's the goal, but what is the plan to reach this goal? It's not just going and doing it and not thinking about it. So that's where the financial side of it comes in, right? So to be able to do that, you need to have the financial means to support yourself, even if your projects fail. And so then that becomes the goal to achieve this goal. So your original question was, what drives me, or why I do this and what drives me.
Yeah, the motives.
Yeah, so that is the motive, but like you said, I'm not the biggest fan of working for somebody else. I don't think I've been very good at it, because even when I'm working for somebody else, my head is just filled with all the stuff that I want to do, and so it's hard. It's hard working on someone else's project when you have all these projects in your head that you would want to work on, but then once you're done work, you're just depleted mentally, because especially like an artistic job, you're constantly thinking and problem solving. So by the time it's like evening, your brain juices are all kind of like emptied out. So that's one reason. One reason is wanting to do what I want to do, and so for that I need to be financially literate and know what I'm doing with finances. And so I think, again, it was after Sheridan, and during my first job, that I was like, okay, so now I have some income coming in, because I never had like this much money coming into my bank account. I never had a full-time job before that. It was always been part-time. It's like, okay, so now I need to know what to do with this money. So I started reading books, reading lots of financial books, anything I could get my hands on. I started listening to podcasts, listening to because I didn't even know how to invest anything. I didn't know how to invest money. I knew there was a stock market, but I'm like, how do I put my money in here? And like, what does that mean? So I started learning everything from scratch, and just listening to podcasts, watching videos, and reading as many books as I could get my hands on, until I had a solid idea of what it all meant, and what's a stupid investment, what's a good investment, what kind of returns you can expect. Like if you average it out over 10, 15, 20 years, your average investments out, what kind of results can you expect historically? So once I had this newly added knowledge, I start planning how to like achieve this goal of, working on projects that I want to work on. And so, but like now I had the financial education to actually make a plan. And yeah, that's, I think that, and as I've talked about in the animation podcast prior, the pressure from my parents. My parents always wanted me to be, I don't know, a businessman or an engineer. I always had that pressure to kind of like pursue that. So maybe that had something to do with it as well. I think in my culture, I'm sure a lot of cultures, but I'm in my culture, I've noticed that being a business owner is not like a big deal. Oh, I'm a business owner. It's more like something you do. I just, one moment that comes to my mind every time I think about that is I was in the car with my dad, and It was when we first came to Canada, I believe. And we had a friend or a family friend that had just moved to Canada as well. And this person calls my dad, and they're talking, and my dad asks them, "Hey, have you started your business yet? Not that have you found the job yet, is have you started your business yet?" And that kind of stuck with me. So I don't know. I guess since then I had this urge to kind of start my own business as well. So that was a lot of stuff that just threw at you. So hopefully you got
Yeah,
something
yeah,
from that.
yeah. I just wonder, and I'm probably like many other people working a full-time job, like you work full-time as an animator, and how do you manage to develop your enterprise on the side? How do you manage time and obligations?
Sacrificing my health. How else? that's that's about the only answer. I mean, yes, obviously pace yourself, but at the end of the day, you're working when you're working in the industry. It's not easy, so you have to figure something out. So in my case, I work like 7 days a week, um, 12 plus hours a day most days, and I work on to animate early in the morning, then I start my job, and then I finish the job, and then I continue working on to animate until later in the night. So it's definitely a grind, but at least now we know that there is interest, because before we were working on this for over a year, and we had no way to gauge interest. And we had people signing up for our emails, but it's a free email where they're getting
Mhm.
tips and just updates on the course, so you don't know how many of those people are actually interested in the course. So after the Kickstarter, now we have some more motivation where we're like, okay, so we got hundreds of students, these people are interested, and they're making suggestions, and they seem interested, like genuinely interested. They leave comments, wow, like super excited about this. And we're like, oh my God, these people are excited about like what we're creating. So that kind of motivates us even more um, to just kind of like work our butts off until the course is done. But even when the course is done, we're planning on constantly adding stuff to it. So it's never like done. But a lot of buts, at least the core work will be done. Like the main lessons will be done. And so we'll have some chance to kind of like breathe a little bit, and hopefully have a better work-life balance after our release.
Yeah, and
Yeah, so it's just sacrifice, I think, is the answer.
yeah, yeah, perhaps it will be snowballing then. At least.
Fingers crossed. Who knows? Maybe at some point we'll be full time to animate. That's the hope.
Yeah, so I've talking about this that you had some hopes when working on a project and you have not yet kind of like monetized it. I think it's kind of hard, but I've heard like that's one of the main things that separates a businessman from a typical like working person that just has a day job is how you approach pricing. Like, do you have a price? Because when you sell something as a businessman, then you have to really count not just what you want to get paid for your work, but also introduce some extra money for investment or whatever income, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, do you have a way with pricing your work or your product that you're going to sell? If that's a secret,
Yeah,
that's
no,
no
it's
problem.
not.
But
It's
if you
not a
have
secret. I mean,
some
there's.
tips for people,
I don't think there's a formula to it. Um, I generally don't think there's a formula to it, unless, yeah, I don't know, because like we looked at pricing of other online schools, and we looked at what they're offering, and then we kind of compared that with the the thousands of hours of work we're putting in, and we've spent like well over, I think, well over 10,000. I don't know the exact number at this point, but I think around $10,000 to $15,000 on just the development of what we have so far with the course. And then after the Kickstarter, luckily, now we have funding from the Kickstarter, and we're putting majority of that funding back into the course. And so by the time the course is done, it would have been $50,000 probably, maybe more, spent on creating this course and creating all the assets that come with the course. And obviously we have to price that accordingly. I think in terms of assets and all the different things that um, we're offering, I think, more than any other school in that sense. Schools have their pros and cons. Like some schools have like Disney animators and they have this, but I think for us, that's our advantage, is that we're putting a lot of what we're making back into the course and kind of just like growing it as a content. We're trying to make this package where you look at it and you're like, I'd be stupid not to get this. That's what we're trying to create here. So that being said, I think our pricing is still way below what some of the other animation schools are, just because we know that when you're a student, you don't have all the money in the world. You're trying to get into the industry to start making money, so we can't start pricing everything in the thousands. So everything we have is below 1,000. Even our mentorship program, where where you get 12 feedback sessions from instructors, and so that's very like time consuming of instructors, of professionals. So even then, we're still trying to keep it under 1,000. So I think there's no formula, just what makes sense, I think.
Mm-hmm. So, taking all that into account, what does the success of toanimate look like? Like, how do you envision it? Like, say, 5 years from now? What does
I think
success
for me would be to have a lot of happy students, who are happy, who made the choice to get the course, and they have a community, and this is the important part, we're able to be full-time toanimate, or be able to like focus fully on toanimate and focus on those students, because that's just, I've always loved teaching, and I think this is a way that I can have my own business, and I could be teaching students, and hopefully helping a lot of students. And being full-time toanimate, I could actually dedicate time on my own projects as well, because right now, it's I wouldn't have to work full-time at a studio anymore. I'd be able to work on my own business, and then delegate my time, or use my time as I need to on side projects or my own projects on the side. So that just becomes a lot easier, I think. So 5 years from now, hopefully, so the people working on toanimate are me, my girlfriend Simona, who's in the background over there, and our third partner, Vladimir Mokhov. And my hope is that the three of us are able to fully work on toanimate, and that would financially make sense for us. That would be my end goal, I think, for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned Kickstarter, so kind of like crowdfunding. I think I'm starting to see it like super popular in the industry, like getting popular. Not just like individual artists supporting by Patreon or stuff like that, but also the whole idea of making kind of indie second industry, so to speak, like seeing people like Ethan Becker, for example, doing some Project City recently, or guys from Corridor Crew, like they are introducing their own platform for creating content that's kind of funded by the audience.
Yeah, I checked that out. That's pretty cool.
Which is kind of like the very idea of crowdfunding, from people who are interested and just want to make like a direct support for creators. Or so I'm thinking like that's kind of like the way of the future.
I think so. Yeah,
with online.
I just think in in a few years it'll be weird if someone doesn't have a social media platform where they're gathering a following. I think 10 years from now it'd be weird if you don't have a YouTube account, or an Instagram account following, or a Twitter account following. Even now, but I think it's going to be even more weird if you don't have it in a few years.
So talking about YouTube, which is like another activity of yours that like a big one, I think. Has
Yeah.
it helped you to start the business somehow? All
Yeah,
the experience.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, 3 years of making videos definitely helps when you're making course videos. I've kind of like developed my workflow where I'm working a lot faster than I would have if I didn't have any experience at all. Um, on top of that, of course, I've been creating a community on YouTube, and so um, that definitely helps because when I make a free video, I can give a shout out to anyone that's interested in the course, and they can go check out the website and kind of like learn more about it. And so that's definitely one way that we're generating kind of like attention for the course. That was definitely one of the ways. And you also get perks when you're a YouTuber. You get perks in the industry, so you can kind of just like hit up someone who's also a content creator, and they'll get back to you. So there's definitely some perks to it, and I think it's definitely helped with the success of toanimate. Just like constantly producing that free content for like 3 years, it builds a little bit of trust and a little bit of credibility. I think for sure.
So last question maybe in this topic block, so to speak, would be, do your business interests have some kind of possibly positive influence on your art, like on your animation, and in terms of productivity, project management, or maybe something less obvious?
Oh my god,
Do
I
you see a
think
connection?
uh, I think the answer to this one will be a long one, but because when you're like toanimate has made me have to put on like 100 different hats, because you like it may be a course to people, but it is a business. We have an incorporation, we have business accountants, we have lawyers, we have um I don't even know. It's just like there's like a list of like 100 things that we constantly have to think about and do, and we have to take care of. There's a lot of behind the scenes systems that we have to figure out that students will never know and never even think about. It'll just happen for them. So we have to figure out like the most optimized way to do things. I think right now we have 5 freelance artists hired at the same time that we have to manage and give notes to, and so you kind of just put on like 100 different hats when you're running a business. So it's I think it's definitely helped, and to just become better in terms of different things, but also in terms of animation. When you're making, I think we're well over 100 different video tutorials. When you're making video tutorials on something, you have to really understand it and really know it to be able to teach it. And so it's and a line I heard that I really liked is that you need to be reminded more than you need to learn. So it essentially means it's it's more important to be constantly reminded of what you have learned than to learn new things. So I think making this course and going through, making these hundreds of videos, it's really helped kind of like lock in all that knowledge and learn. I've even learned a bunch of new things while making these videos. I've tested things out. Oh, this doesn't work. Oh, there's a better way of doing this. And so, yeah, it's been a journey, and I think it's definitely has helped.